We're getting you all the highlights of US Vice President JD Vance's visit to India. He touched down early this morning, has visited the Akshardham temple and of course had essentially a small cultural tour of the national capital. But now in just a few minutes from now, it'll be all about business. As you will see the big T word, trade, tariff, Trump coming up in conversations between Vice President Vance and Prime Minister Modi. But quickly, let's round up for you all the images that have come in so far of the Vance family's visit to India so far. US Vice President JD Vance and his family landed in Delhi's Parliament Airport at around 10 in the morning. His kids, Ivan, Vivek and Mirabel, charmed onlookers with their full Desi attire. Upon landing, the Vance family got a traditional welcome, a dance troupe performing on the tarmac despite the sweltering heat in Delhi, an effort that visibly impressed the Vance family as they were seen clicking photos also with the Bharatanatyam dancers. Later, the Vice President of United States, JD Vance, also received a ceremonial guard of honor. This was at the Parliament Airport. This is his first official visit to India. First stop for the Vances was Delhi's iconic Akshardham temple. JD Vance also shared his experience in the Akshardham guest book, where he wrote, and I quote, "It's a great credit to India that you built a beautiful temple with precision and care. Our kids in particular loved it." The Vance family also went on a shopping spree at the Janpat Emporium in Delhi. They spent around 40 to 45 minutes in the showroom. They reportedly purchased a few items as well. Footage of the same hasn't been released just yet. And shortly, you're going to be seeing that bilateral meeting between US Vice President JD Vance and Prime Minister Modi. This is a meeting that will be happening at 7 local landmarks. So Prime Minister Modi will be hosting JD Vance at his residence. First, you will see essentially all business being discussed, after which there's also a formal dinner that's been planned in honor of the US Vice President, in honor of Vance and his family being in India. Now let's focus really on the bilateral. What can you expect on the talks or on the table? Well, essentially, trade deal, that will be the biggest focus of what really emerges on the road ahead with regards to the India-US dialogue on a trade deal that benefits both, that's mutually beneficial, that both countries feel they've got a fair deal. Regional security is again on the agenda. But this is importantly a high level, the highest perhaps level dialogue that you're going to be seeing on trade. Prime Minister Modi will be sitting down with US Vice President Vance, where essentially it will also be a status check on how far they've managed to get really with regards to the trade deal talks. And it's important to highlight that at this point, remember, Trump has paused that tariff on India among several other countries. 60 countries or so, Trump has pressed the pause button, including India. But on that, you're also going to be seeing negotiations to seal the trade agreement. Live images on your screens right now. It looks like the motorcade with the Vances has just driven into 7 local landmark. I wonder if Shivani is with us. We'll go across to her for those updates. She is joining us from outside the Prime Minister's residence. But before that, let me just bring in Gaurav Sawant. Gaurav, to you, what will really be the 3 key takeaways that you'll watch out for in that bilateral?
Akshita, this is a very, very important meeting between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the US Vice President JD Vance. So when the Indian Prime Minister interacts with the US Vice President, who has the US presidency here, it's a crucial meeting. It's the bigger aspects or the higher direction, as they say, that's given in these, that is communicated in these meetings. It won't be the nuts and bolts, because for nuts and bolts, you have specific teams that are already engaged in the task and at a very crucial level. So in this meeting, it's the broad strokes of where this relationship is headed, how crucial this is for India, how crucial this is for the United States of America. And that's why look at the red carpet that's been laid out for the US Vice President. This is in a way, India investing in future leadership of the United States of America. He's very young. He's the Vice President. There's a very strong India connection, married to an Indian origin lady. So all of this, this is India investing in the future. Point one. Point two, he has President Donald Trump's ear. And you've seen the way he talks to other foreign heads of states and governments. We've seen that interaction at the Oval Office. We've seen that in the White House. We've also seen how he's sent out on very critical missions, whether it's to Greenland, whether it's to Europe, the messages that go out. When he comes here, it's altogether at a different level. So we will see a very crucial messaging and the close personal relationship, the close personal bond. Remember, the interaction now is the third time, once in Paris, once in Washington, D.C., and now in New Delhi. So that just shows bonding at a different level. That bonding perhaps will give that higher direction to the respective trade teams. And in the case of the Vice President, he carries that message back to President Donald Trump that how important this relationship and trade is one aspect of it. Remember, Quad Summit is to be held in India this year. President Trump will be coming to India this year. Preparation for that. Indo-Pacific, very, very significant. An expansionist China and how powerful democracies deal with expansionist forces. Trade, one aspect. Strategic ties, one aspect. Quad, one aspect. Critical technology, very important aspect. So these are various issues that the two will briefly talk about. Then they have dinner together.
You know, some of those aspects I will talk in detail with you, Gaurav, particularly on Quad and the China factor. But I just want to get in a quick update, a live update from the ground from Shivani Sharma. She's joining us live from outside the Prime Minister's residence. Shivani, take it away. We understand the Vice President has just reached Prime Minister Modi's residence.
Akshita, Vice President JD Vance has just reached 7 LKM, and I can show you this cavalcade of Vice President of United States. You can see these vehicular movement that is taking place outside 7 LKM, where the meeting is just about to start, and 6:30 sharp, the cavalcade arrived here at 7 LKM when Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be meeting the US Vice President JD Vance, who's on a 4-day visit to India. So this is the huge, secure cavalcade of JD Vance, who is at 7 LKM, the official residence of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, where a very crucial, very important bilateral meeting will happen. It will start anytime soon, and then there will be a dinner that will be hosted by Prime Minister Narendra Modi for Vance family. So this is the place from where this cavalcade can be seen, this carcade of the Vice President JD Vance, who is inside 7 LKM. He's inside the residence of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and very soon we'll try and get some more updates onto the meeting when it starts. And very importantly out here, we must mention that this is a comprehensive bilateral dialogue that's going to take place between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US Vice President JD Vance.
Are we expecting, Shivani, just quickly on that, are we expecting a joint statement once the bilateral ends? Is there going to be a briefing by both leaders?
We need some more clarity on that, Akshita, whether the joint statement will be released or a statement that will be released by the MEA on this meeting, because in fact this is a very important meeting that is going to happen between Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And United States and India have been working together on a number of issues, not only the tariffs and the trade agreement, but the strategic ties between both the countries. And quite likely we can expect a statement right after the meeting happens and the important issues that have been discussed here.
Okay, Shivani, so we'll watch out for those updates, and hopefully very soon pictures also of the meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Vice President JD Vance. What you'll also look out for is pictures of Prime Minister Modi meeting Vance's family. I remember those going viral, particularly from Paris, when Prime Minister Modi had met with JD Vance's kids and thoughtfully handed over gifts to them as well. But Gaurav, coming back to you really on the business aspect really of the conversation and the bilateral that will happen between Prime Minister Modi and Vice President Vance. One of the points you mentioned was on China. How crucial really is it for America to really ensure, better ties with India, because it sends across a message also to China at a time when Trump and China clearly aren't seeing eye to eye?
America-China relations very clearly are heading downhill. They're going south. There's no denying that fact. And especially after both sides, so far it was in a way a proxy war that was happening, or a war where both sides were at least trying or claiming that they're on the same side, or they're friends and they're dealing with each other, and yet undercutting each other. But now it's out in the open. China wants to be number one. US wants to remain number one. Can China accelerate, replacing America as number one? And can US stall that rise? All of those are very crucial dynamics between those two countries. And India is one country that will play a very critical role. And New Delhi is aware of India's critical role to ensure that Indian interests are best protected and best served in the relationship as it moves forward. So Indo-Pacific, very crucial. The fact that the revival of Quad, Quad growing when President Trump, became president for the second tenure. In his second tenure, this is the first Quad summit that will take place, and it's taking place in India. So India will make sure that this Quad summit sends out very powerful messages all across Indo-Pacific. India is anyway emerging as the leader of the global South. We've seen that post G20, how India speaks not just for India, but for all developing countries of the region, and ensures that that message carries weight. The United States realizes that, and when something happens in this region, India has to play a much bigger role. But for that, India would need, one, the manufacturing heft. India would need the military might. India would need the strategic power. And for all of that, US and India will have to work together. Tariffs, while President Trump imposed those tariffs, as you mentioned, across 260 countries, but India did not contest it. India, the moment President Trump took over as president, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was amongst the first world leaders to be in Washington, D.C. To take this relationship forward. And several officers in the Ministry of External Affairs have explained the messages hit the ground running, be on the same page with the new U.S. administration, engage with them extensively, so that the first 6 months to a year are not lost in just getting to know each other and each finding its way. So that's where India and America have achieved at least one part. Bilateral trade agreement by fall, phase 1. That should send out the second message. The fact that there's 257% tariff on China, and countries close to China or a part of China's axis, there's a higher tariff for them. That sends out a very important signal again to those countries. So this is where India and America together will play a very critical role. It remains to be seen how both are able to address each other's concerns and ensure this is a win-win for both.
Just a quick follow-up to that, Gaurav. Do you think that Vice President Vance's visit has also very strategically been timed to what's really happening between America and China? Because there's all of this buzz that, what's happening between America and China ultimately will lead to advantage India.
That is the hope. That is the hope, and that is the effort. That it's advantage India. It's India first in every situation. The way Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his team have wargamed this and are moving forward on this. And look at the statement that's come out from Beijing, from their Ministry of Commerce. They're saying any country that does a deal with America which is detrimental to Chinese interests, there will be consequences. It may be aimed at Europe. It may be aimed at India. It may be aimed at other countries. But the fact remains the same, that this is a position where India, and something that our diplomats have been talking about very extensively, in Hindi it's known as Aapada Mein Avsar, looking for an opportunity in an adversity. That is what India is trying, negotiating, and they're both very hard-nosed in their negotiations, India and the United States of America, and that is why perhaps the deal hasn't worked so far. So that's the effort with UK, with Europe, with US, multiple trade agreements, bilateral trade agreements. That's the effort that these countries are moving forward on.
Very, very true. Gaurav, I'm going to let you go for the moment. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll reconnect with you once pictures come in of the bilateral meet between Prime Minister Modi and Vice President Vance. But let's put the focus on the pictures that have emerged so far of the Vice President accompanied by his family here in Delhi and JD Vance's kids, who've grabbed the spotlight in Delhi, dressed very aptly in a Desi look. You had his two sons, Ivan and Vivek, embracing their Desi attire by wearing a kurta pajama, while JD Vance and Usha Vance's daughter Mirabel was dressed in an anarkali outfit. Perfect, really, for their visit to the Akshardham temple.
The Vance kids stole the show as they touched down in New Delhi. The boys, Ewan and Vivek, were dressed in kurta and pajamas. and little Mirabelle took baby steps down in a royal blue ethnic ensemble. Her dad, the US Vice President, hurried up to carry her in his arms. On a sweltering summer day, the Vance kids squinted and braved the heat. Greeting Minister Ashwini Vaishnav and even playing with the medals of an Indian Air Force officer who was part of the welcome party. Then it was time for a traditional treat, a Bharatnatyam performance to welcome the Vances. The kids soaked in the dance before turning around to pose for a family photo. Next stop, Delhi's iconic Akshardham temple. The Vance family were welcomed with rose and marigold garlands. The kids held on to their parents' hands as they posed together, with little Mirabelle chewing on to what appeared to be a band or a thread tied around her wrist. JD Vance in his thank you message wrote that the kids in particular loved the Akshardham temple. JD Vance will be meeting the Prime Minister on Monday evening. Their last meet was in Paris on the sidelines of the AI Action Summit, where Yvonne and Vivek also had an audience with Narendra Modi. The Vance brothers were casually dressed in jeans and t-shirts, with Vivek looking a little unimpressed. Before arriving in India, this video of the Vance children had the internet abuzz. The boys seen wielding their toy swords as they departed Rome, and a sleeping Mirabelle being carried up the plane by Daddy Vance. Daughter Mirabelle had turned heads at the Trump inauguration too, rocking fingers and band-aids. The toddler was healing America with some disruptive finger fashion. The other two Vance kids clearly went viral with these antics, playing tabla on their parents' heads. While one slouched across the front of the deck, the candid moment brought smiles to an otherwise buttoned-up evening. For a high-stakes diplomatic visit, the Vance kids have the pride of place. Bureau Report, India Today.
So the spotlight is on JD Vance, his wife Usha, and their 3 children who've captivated the public with their cultural grace and impeccable fashion sense. Our next report, we take a look at all the iconic outfits that Usha Vance has donned, blending her Indian heritage with contemporary elegance.
Usha Vance, the first Indian-American second lady, arrived in New Delhi, turning the diplomatic runway into her personal catwalk. Her bold red dress, a sleeveless high-neck maxi-length pencil silhouette, was a nod to her Indian heritage, where red symbolizes prosperity and celebration. The look was polished with a crisp white blazer, exuding modern sophistication. Her minimal accessories and relaxed side-parted hairstyle kept the focus on the dress's fiery hue. Fashion critics are calling it a seamless blend of East meets West elegance. And a touch of romance too, as she ensured her dress matched with her husband, Vice President Vance's tie.
I think she was dressed impeccably. She was in an A-line red dress with an A-line shift red dress, and she's in a white blazer. I think red is such a significant color both for America and for us. And she was complimentary to her husband, who was in a staple uniform navy blue suit along with the red tie. So I think they coordinated well, and as an airport look, I thought that was extremely comfortable and chic of her.
The kids too didn't disappoint. They stole hearts in traditional Indian wear, handpicked to honor their mother's Telugu roots.
I thought it was very respectful that her kids were dressed in Indian outfits, from a kurta pajama to a lehenga choli, and it seems like an attempt to make them feel a part of this culture since she's herself from India.
Usha Vance has always been a picture of elegance and poise. Just last week, Usha and JD Vance attended Good Friday Mass at St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, and Usha exuded grace in a tailored black midi dress with long sleeveless and a modest neckline, paired with a traditional lace mantilla veil, which was a nod to Catholic customs. 2025 has clearly been Usha Vance's year to shine. At the presidential inauguration, she turned heads in a custom peony pink Oscar de la Renta cashmere coat, paired with a tea-length dress and mauve suede boots. The look, accessorized with floral pearl earrings and a sleek bun, was dubbed demure royalty by fashionistas. In a rare nod to Indian designers, Usha stunned at the pre-inauguration candlelight dinner in a violet one-shoulder Gaurav Gupta gown. The sculptural pleated design with a daring slit showcased her ability to blend heritage with high fashion.
There was a very nice, elegant, formal look. Gaurav Gupta is known to do these very elaborate looks for occasions, especially for red carpet. She carried it off very well, though we've also noticed that she hasn't been wearing too many Indian designers. Gaurav Gupta is the only one that we've seen on her.
At the inaugural ball, Usha sparkled in a strapless sapphire degraded gown by Reem Accra, featuring embroidery and chantilly lace. Paired with diamond studs and a low bun, the look screamed timeless glamour. Netizens can't stop gushing over Usha Vance's style, from ex-posts calling her trending and smashing to comparisons with First Lady Melania Trump. Usha's monochromatic clean-cut style is redefining political fashion. Her salt and pepper hair, often styled in a sleek bun, adds a youthful yet sophisticated edge.
She's a very classic dresser. She's super simple, she's super elegant, and she keeps it very simple and I would say minimal. And I think she wears simpler cuts. She's not known to experiment too much, but she does experiment a bit with color. And I like how she simply dresses, not bringing in too much attention, but that maybe just be her personality as well.
As Usha Vance continues her global journey, her fashion choices speak louder than words, blending heritage, modernity, and quiet confidence. Whether in a fiery red dress or a structural gown, she's proving that style is the ultimate diplomacy. The only time we've seen Usha rock a desi look is a wedding, when she wore a traditional Andhra sari. Even her visits to her family with Vance have been casual and comfy. So we are definitely counting on more desi flair in the days to come. With Kshitija Gosavi, Bureau Report, India Today.